Look at you, Razorback fan. You got a little twinkle in your eye, grinning ear to ear. I don't blame you. It's a good time to be a Hog. If you look at Arkansas's three major sports, they're either ranked in the top 10 nationally currently or they're preseason top 10. And I've seen that a lot in football. Obviously, basketball, number one on just about everybody's preseason list. Yes, it is a good time to be a Razorback. We're going to be talking to Danny West today. He's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the stuff that went on in Razorback recruiting. We're also going to talk about that in length. We didn't get to your questions last time, so we're going to make sure to do that as well. And Keith Grayson also joining us to talk a little bit about some things going on with 4th and 25 Fund and some other things. Yeah, let's do it. All that and more on HawgSports Live. And before we get started, of course, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. If you haven't followed the page, be sure to do so. Share the content with somebody else if you think they might like it. Give us a thumbs up there. Also on YouTube, we'll take a like from you on that channel. Hit the notifications bell after you subscribe so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else you think of podcast. Give us that 5-star review if you haven't done so already on Apple Podcasts. Say something nice about the show. Let others know what to think. HawgSports.com is just $1 right now for your first month. HawgSports.com, $1 for your first month. And if you like what you get with HawgSports after that 1-month trial, we'll put you on the regular price and we'll give you Paramount Plus for free for as long as you're subscribed. Paramount Plus for free. Got some great shows on Paramount Plus if you haven't been checking out Halo, Picard, Star Trek Discovery, Yellowstone 1883. And plus, it's Comedy Central, it's BET, it's Smithsonian, it's all of those channels, all the Paramount movies. It's a really great service and really starting to become one of the streaming services that you kind of have to have right there with like Netflix and HBO. If you're a person that likes watching shows and stuff like I do. All right, we're going to get into some stuff here. And again, we didn't get to your questions last time, so we're going to do that. But I thought Curtis Wilkerson with HawgSports, who's not joining us today, but Curtis did a great job covering Razorback basketball throughout the postseason and, of course, the regular season as well. But he was everywhere Arkansas was this postseason. But how Elite Eight losses have shaped the new approach for Arkansas. If you notice, Arkansas has made a really big effort to get bigger this offseason. And I thought last year after they lost to Baylor, and I remember thinking, man, Baylor's so quick. And I felt like they tried to get quicker, brought in a guy like Chris Likes, for example. I thought that was kind of the big focus. And then this year, you play Duke, and they're like bigger than you. And now he's going out and getting a lot bigger guys. It's a really good article by Curtis. You can go to HawgSports. It's a free one. It's a free article. It's just a lot of it's from, some of the stuff that Musselman talked about with Pat Bradley on the 40 Minutes of Hell podcast with Pat. But it's a good read. Arkansas basketball has a number 1 ranked portal class. You got West Virginia at 10, Iowa State, Ohio State, Florida State, Nebraska, all tied at 6. Alabama, Texas Tech, LSU. Alabama, Texas Tech tied at 4. LSU is 3. LSU has to be 3. The whole team is gone. Arizona State at 2. And Arkansas at number 1. The latest addition is Jalen Graham out of Arizona State. This is a nice-looking guy. I mean, he's 6'9", 220, and he can do just about everything. I mean, like I've watched a lot of video of his. In fact, I did a breakdown on my opinion on Jalen Graham and the impact that he could have. This guy, first of all, he can score in a variety of ways. He's got a pretty nice offensive arsenal, whether it's a floater or, he can finish above the rim. He's a great passer, too. Just watching his, like somebody posted the Oregon game, and I think he had 18 points in that one. He was an all Pac-12 player, by the way. There are 3 passes that are just, very impressive. No look, behind the back. I can't even remember what the other one was, but this guy can pass the ball. And then I think about him on the floor with Nick Smith and Anthony Black, who are also great passers. Really intriguing what they could do with that guy. Whether he is lining up next to Jalen Williams, who's testing the NBA waters, hasn't hired an agent, whether he's lining up next to Jalen or in place of Jalen, this guy, to me, is a starter for them next year. Now, I've heard some things like, maybe his motor could be a little bit higher, maybe butted heads a little bit with Arizona State coaches, and I don't know. I can't understand from looking at that when I look at the roster that they have, how they were 14 and 17, something like that. And at one point, they were like 7-15. Like they won 7 of their final 8 games to even get there. I don't understand that with the roster they have. But this guy, I think, is a fantastic addition. I think he fits really well and can do a lot of things. Like, how many positions can this guy guard? He's got really quick feet. You talk about positionless basketball. I think he could be a good three-point shooter. I think he could be he's 17 and in, okay? But he's got a nice stroke. And one thing that was confusing to me was, why was his free throw percentage at like 52%? Well, earlier in the year he was like 30% and picked it back up. The second half, and he was like 64%. I think he can be a lot better. He's got a smooth stroke. Usually you see big men that can't shoot the ball well, like at the free throw line, and they're like almost like trying to balance the ball, and just like it looks awkward. It doesn't sync up the wrist and the elbow and stuff. This guy's got a really smooth stroke. I mean, he can shoot the ball, and you can see that in some of the other stuff he does. He can back you down. He can do a lot of stuff. I'm really intrigued by this guy. And plus, when you throw him in with the Mitchell twins from Rhode Island, those are guys I think will give you good minutes. I don't think that either of those guys are like come in and just start right out of the gate, but a couple guys that can give you some good minutes and also make you a bigger team, make it where it's like you're not freaking out every time if Jalen comes back, every time he gets 2 fouls in the first half, because you don't have really anybody else. I mean, you got guys like Kamani and stuff who can help, but Kamani didn't have like the offensive game that some of these guys do. And also, with these twins, I've seen people like kind of scratching their head on it, like Arkansas can't just bring in a bunch of guys demanding the ball, right? They've got Anthony Black, Nick Smith, Jordan Walsh coming in. Jalen will hopefully be back for Arkansas. So you got all these guys coming in. You can't just have guys that are like wanting to score 15 points a game, So really nice transfer class for Arkansas overall. There was an article also about, just obviously Arkansas's got the number 1 transfer class, but just about what everybody needs moving forward. And it's like, don't be surprised to see if Arkansas, tries to go out and find maybe an experienced guard also. I think that's possible. I think they add one more. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a wing or something like that, but heck, I think this guy could be a wing, just depending on how the lineup shakes out, because he can guard anybody out there. I think he can develop a three-point shot if that was something he was focused at. And he's knocked down a couple, but he doesn't shoot very many. So, just to kind of revamp what I'm saying here about Arkansas, baseball's 6 right now. They just dropped this. They lost their first series in 13 straight series in the SEC, or overall, I can't remember what it was, but 13 straight series that they have won, and now they drop one. They lost, 1-2 to Florida, and they're 6th nationally. They were 2, so they dropped from 2 to 6. Okay, so that's baseball, and their recruiting class is 5 right now in the entire country. So 6 overall nationally, number 5 recruiting class. And then you switch over to basketball. Basketball has the number 2 ranked recruiting class in the country, the number 1 ranked transfer class in the country, and the preseason number 1 ranked team in the country. Yeah, I know. That's I can't even believe that just came out of my mouth. I mean, if that doesn't make you smile, I don't know what will. So basketball, really intriguing right now. And then let's look at football. Football was in Arkansas basketball also in the coaches poll, they finished 8th in the nation. So moved up like 10 spots in the final poll. And then you look at football. Football finished 21st last year. They had the number 3 ranked recruiting class in the country, a tremendous transfer class coming in. And this is the number 3 class, not for the one right now, but the one looking ahead to next year. They're about to start the evaluation period coming up in a little bit. And preseason, I've seen them as high as 6th. I've seen them 8th. I've seen them in a lot of top 10 lists preseason. And I think that they can get there. And I'm on record now. 24/7 had an article came out recently like predicting how many wins for each SEC team, and had Arkansas at 7th. I don't see that. I think possible 10 regular season. I think it's possible. Now, they may have a couple of things you want to see them shore up. Got to get the left tackle spot figured out. Maybe bring in a defensive tackle, an interior guy. But aside from that, I see a team that is looking really good. And I love what they look like this spring. I feel like they're just Haven't missed a beat. I love the attitude, the culture. I think other people are seeing that. Josh Pate had some really good takes this week also on Arkansas, on Arkansas football, just where things are kind of headed, how things look, the culture, the things we talk about a lot here that maybe people nationally don't know about yet. We had a first chance to talk to Barry Odom and Kendall Briles since August. Yeah, since August. So, it's both of these guys, Briles, Odom, Scott Fountain too. He's a coordinator too. But Odom and Briles, as Pate was pointing out, for an offensive and defensive coordinator, they make Arkansas one of 8 teams in Power 5 football out of 65 teams, one of 8 teams with coordinators that are returning for their third year. And these aren't guys that are just can't find another job. Both these guys were courted in the offseason. Barry Odom gets courted every year, whether it's a G5 head coaching job or a Power 5 coordinator job. Programs you would say are very well thought of and has stayed at Arkansas. Briles had an opportunity to go to Miami this past season as offensive coordinator and chose to stay at Arkansas. And I thought this was interesting from Briles, just talking about, this is the first time he's been a coordinator. This will be his 7th year, I think, as being a coordinator, an offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. This will be the first year that he's had a returning quarterback starting. His first time ever. And a lot of that is because he moved around so much. But, you got KJ coming back. This is the first time it's ever happened. So I think that's really cool when you think about it. But to have that continuity with those guys coming back, I think is really, really big for the program and special teams too, not just those two guys. But both of them have, just talked about how much they love working under Sam Pittman, and why wouldn't you? The kids that they have coming back, how they work, and the area of Northwest Arkansas, which not a lot of people, especially if you haven't been here, you hear people critique stuff. Like I remember looking at the Maryland board when they were just well, let's go get Eric Musselman, be our basketball coach. That should be pretty easy. Arkansas sucks. You've never been here. You can tell me you'd rather live in D.C. than Northwest Arkansas? I wouldn't. I've been to D.C. I've been to a lot of places. But Northwest Arkansas, when you're talking about you're in your 40s, you got kids, wife, there's not many better places to live than this area up here. The air is clean, the water's drinkable. I mean, it's beautiful up here. And with the university, the impact of Walmart and Tyson, J.B. Hunt, and all these big companies, there's just a lot going on. Anybody who's been to Fayetteville knows that. Anybody who's been here knows that. It's a good place to be. And Arkansas is making the most of it right now. They're really capitalizing in so many areas. Some good recent articles. We've got to talk to Jaden Hazelwood for the first time. And Hazelwood basically knew he was coming to Arkansas before he ever made his visit here. And, there was a lot of things that impacted that. The chance to play in the SEC, Sam Pittman, Jimmy Smith being his head coach, KJ Jefferson returning at quarterback, the success that Traylon Burks had. Those are all reasons that he saw Arkansas as a destination place for him. Not a backup option, as Josh Pate put it, but a destination. Same with Drew Sanders, explained why he picked Arkansas. Wanted also the opportunity to maybe play more of an inside linebacker position, a little bit different structure with defense. But all those articles are on HawgSports. You've had some action in the transfer portal since we last spoke. Obviously, Lucas Coley has entered the transfer portal, redshirt freshman quarterback, a guy that I thought had some promise at Arkansas. So he's in the portal. Not sure why exactly, but he has entered the portal, I think, after 7 spring practices. They're in 9 practices now after Saturday's practice. This will be the last week, but you had Coley enter the portal. You had Soley enter the portal, Mateo Soley. Soley was working with the third group, and that's without Jordan Dominic and Landon Jackson, who's been sidelined with a knee. I mean, those guys are going to come back eventually, and that kind of looks more like fourth team. So I can understand, that you're a senior. You want to find somewhere you can play, I guess. So, but Arkansas had a couple of guys. Also, Kevin Compton, who's a walk-on D-back, has entered the portal since then. So, Arkansas had a little bit of action with players leaving, entering the portal. But they're at 9 practices now. They get 15 total, so they're at 9. So this week is an interesting week, I should say, because you have practice Tuesday, practice Thursday, and then you have the open practice on Saturday that's open to everybody. So it's not the red-white game. They're calling it like the spring showcase. So it's not a red-white game. They are going to scrimmage. They're going to do all that kind of stuff. They're not going to have it's not going to be like a game. It's not going to be like a mock game or something, or like a red-white game normally would. It'd be like situational type stuff, running a practice. So it'll be a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. And, part of that is changing things around to get fans in the stadium to watch them do this stuff, because Garth Brooks is the next week on the 23rd, I think. So you've got Garth Brooks concert, and that's going to take, I guess, a week to set up all that stuff. So, and actually, so that'll mark the 12th practice on the 16th, the open practice. That'll mark the 12th practice. They get 3 more, but it's all going to be, as far as media or fans or anything like that, that's just going to be kind of closed. We're not going to have any access to practice or access after practice or any of that stuff. They're just going to have 3 more practices. Maybe it's an opportunity for them to incorporate some stuff that maybe we're not as familiar with. One reason that all the spring practices have been open, all but one, the first scrimmage, have been open to the media. So we've had 8 opportunities to watch practice. I've seen them all. And that's, they, I guess, work on stuff that maybe we've already seen at this point. And then these last 3, hey, we got a few new things. And the good thing about it, they've got so much experience returning that, it shouldn't be that hard to implement new stuff right now. I think it's interesting they've spent a lot of time on special teams. Now, how's that left tackle position going to go? You've got Brady Latham working at left tackle, Luke Jones working at guard. Luke Jones and Andrew Chamblee have been working at left tackle. But that's an interesting position, like right up there with like who's the starting main go-to guy wide receiver. Jaden Hazelwood, Keytron Jackson's done some good things. Keytron has looked really good this spring. Who's going to be the guy there? Or is it going to be a couple of guys? Who's going to be your starting left tackle? How are things shaking out on the interior defensive line? They like what they've seen from Isaiah Nichols and Cam Ball coming on, Torian Carter having another good spring. But those are some key areas, I think, that we have to kind of look at and say, how's this going to shake out? All right. I want to get to Danny West now. Running a little bit behind. Computer was acting crazy for some reason. But I'm going to get to Danny. We're going to talk a little bit about Razorback recruiting. They had some visitors up this weekend. For any of you who don't follow Danny, you can follow him at DannyWest247 on Twitter. He's been with us for, probably a dozen years or so covering Razorback recruiting. Danny, how you doing, man?
What's up, dude? Doing pretty good. Got a little bit of work going on today, getting ready for a big weekend recruiting.
Big weekend coming up for recruiting, obviously. We just talked about the spring showcase on April 16th. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this past weekend for recruiting. I know there were some visitors. Keldon Ryan was one in 2025 quarterback, had some other guys as well. Just kind of update us on where things have been this past week.
Yeah, this past week, pretty busy, I would say. It started off with a bang. Bo Hewley, 2023 offensive lineman out of Fairburn, Georgia, Langston Hughes High School. He's number 64 in the country overall. He's committed to Georgia. They got him here for a visit. That was pretty much off the radar until after the fact. And that's one way to start a week, get one of the top 100 players on campus. And then to close it out by the end of the week, you got a visit from Miles McVeigh, another big-time offensive line recruit in the 23 class out of East St. Louis. So you had some other guys sprinkled in there. You mentioned Keldon Ryan, 2025 quarterback out of Keller, Texas. He's got some nice offers already. Arkansas, Baylor, Pitt, Cal, I think Jackson State, which, by the way, Trey, I got to mention this. You wouldn't believe how many kids hit me up and say, hey, can you add my Jackson State offer to my profile? I just think that's a pretty cool deal, what Coach Prime's been able to do. Those kids are proud of that offer, and I always enjoy adding one to a profile. So just wanted to make note of that. But Jeremiah Hughes is a kid from Las Vegas, cornerback, 2023. Just talked to him last night. This kid was originally born in Pine Bluff still has a ton of family here across the natural state, and he was back in on Saturday for another visit. He came to camp last year. I remember talking to him then. Really good kid. He says Arkansas is still going to be in the mix for him going forward, but several options there for him. A lot of Pac-12 flavor as you might expect out west, but I think Arkansas could be a dark horse to keep an eye on here with Jeremiah Hughes.
So, Danny, looking ahead now, big visit weekend coming up. Just, I guess, tell us what to expect this weekend.
A lot of stars, a lot of big-time players. Of course, everybody wants to talk about the five-star. Obviously, Jaden Rashada, five-star quarterback, coming out from Pittsburgh, California. As far as I know, his teammate's still going to be with him. That's Rashid Williams, four-star wide receiver. Several more. In fact, we want to talk about offensive linemen. They've got, it seems like every other week, Trey, they're bringing in one or two big-time offensive linemen, right? And that's going to be the case again this week. You've got Bison Lane out of Pike Road, Alabama. He's coming back, a big kid, 6'5", 330. He was here in January. This will be his second trip. Connor Stroh out of Frisco. Luke Brown, a four-star out of Tennessee, Paris, Tennessee. All three of these guys making their second trip back here. So there's a couple there with Connor and Luke Brown. I might be keeping my head on a swivel this week. I'll put it that way.
Danny West joining us again. You can follow Danny at DannyWest247 on Twitter. Been with us for like a dozen years or more, Danny. I don't even know. You've been with us forever,
about
it seems.
12 years.
About 12 years, yeah. Yeah, and does a great job. If you want to follow Danny's recruiting stuff, it's mostly VIP, so you will need that VIP subscription. Again, you can sign up for 1 month for just $1 right now and test things out. It's a big visit weekend, so if you want to keep up to date on all the things happening, then go ahead and do it. All right, Danny, we keep talking about Arkansas's recruiting class. It's number 3 nationally, and, hey, they're not going to end up number 3, but, they hadn't been there before, and we've been saying this for a couple months now, it feels like. I mean, they've been number 3 for a long, long time.
Long time. Admittedly, longer than I anticipated, to be honest with you, and I don't know if that's a result of Arkansas doing, much better than they had been to start the year, or other teams just haven't started firing off commitments yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's coming. So take nothing away from other teams. They're probably going to pass Arkansas at some point. I still believe that. But you're right, man, to be almost in the middle of April and still see Arkansas at number 3, and we talk about a couple of kids coming in this week. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get these guys, but if you did, I mean, I'm sitting here punching the numbers now, and, you could move up to 2 instead of falling back a little bit. So, it's interesting to me to see how long it has gone on, but hey, more power to them, man. They're getting in on the right guys. I know some of these names we keep talking about, and I think this is a good thing that we're probably going to be talking about these guys for several more months. I'm not sure a ton of guys on the board right now are really close to making a pick. Yeah. And I think that's good because typically, I mean, historically, most of your big-time guys take a little more time. So that tells you right there that you're in on the right guys and you're in the ball game for them.
Yeah, I think you'd like to get a quarterback on board. Obviously, we talked about Malachi Singleton as a really high target. Rashada, you mentioned coming in this weekend. But you'd like to get a quarter – sorry, Danny.
Cedric Baxter, too. I skipped right over Ced Baxter Jr. Sorry to cut you off. But, I mean, shoot, he's the number 46 player in the country, a running back, 6'1", 215 out of Edgewater in Orlando. It's his second trip here.
Yeah.
Kid's made that trip twice. He flew to Dallas to see him play A&M. It just blows me away that they're even, this close. I'm not saying they're going to get him, but second trip all the way from Orlando.
Hey, that's something we always watch. But just to kind of put things in perspective, Arkansas has 10 commitments right now, so they're able to, hey, let's take some pause here. Let's see what happens. And they have 10 commitments. For Arkansas, that means they have 10 commitments. Like the way we've seen under Pittman, guys don't decommit. The only guys that have decommitted were Landon Rogers, who recommitted like a week later, and I don't know if you would count Miles Rouser because he wasn't able to enroll so really. I mean, when you think about it, there hasn't really been anybody that's, wanted to come here and committed that, didn't end up and was able to come here. But just to your point, about schools eventually going to pass Arkansas, in recruiting, schools that have typically done that. Texas right now only has 3 commitments. Texas A&M only has 4 commitments. They're 22 and 23. Alabama is ranked 30th nationally with just 2 commitments. So
Saban's got to pick it up, man.
Yeah, he's got to pick it up. What's he doing? Yeah.
What's he doing down there?
Exactly. So there are some other schools, but it's a great indicator. We always talk about how can Arkansas get to a top 15 recruiting class. And because they haven't, the highest they've been is what, like 18th or something?
18th,
yeah.
2004.
2004. Right. So that's the highest that they've been. So how can they get to that next stage of being like a top 15? And then, hey, maybe we'll talk about how can they get to that next stage of being a top 10 one day.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good question. It's something, I seem to get asked about a lot. But, man, the one thing that's kind of been missing a little bit has been defensive linemen.
Oh, yeah.
Over the past few years.
Especially those interior guys.
The interior guys. I just feel like, you're off to a good start. You got Caleb James out of Texas. You got a 4-star right here in the home state, Quincy Rhodes, that takes care of that streak that had to end of 4 stars not coming to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So they've got that out of the way. Now, can you go pull a surprise somewhere, a Caden McDonald, that type of guy? Until they do that, I think we're still going to be having the same conversations, in terms of sacks and TFLs and all these things. But slowly but surely, I do think they're starting to attract a higher caliber on the defensive line. They've been doing it everywhere else, to be honest, but the defensive line needed an improvement. And I got to tell you, I think Deke Adams is in on some really good ones, getting a lot of positive feedback from some of these guys. So maybe they're starting to turn the corner there. But to answer your question, that's the one, I wouldn't call it a concern. I'm not going to put it in that category, but the one position group that makes you go, man, if they just had that, could be a top 15, so maybe that'll shake out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to, I've been watching Deke Adams a lot in practice just to see what kind of style he has. He's very intense. He like really gets after him. I saw him with a player, I think Tuesday's practice, just kind of tearing into him because, there's a simple thing that he's got to do. He's like, if I can't trust you, to do this, I can't put you out there, and just letting him know about it. And then,
I like hearing that.
But he followed up with it, Danny. He followed up with it. He said, you've made too much damn progress this spring. You've made too much progress to be doing something like that. You've been, like building him back up,
positive,
but exactly. Like when I hear a coach say something like, you're too good a player to be doing that. That's the kind of coaching that I think works and I think resonates with the kids.
I'm with you on that. I wish my boss felt the same way. He'll just tear you down, boy. He'll talk bad to you.
Oh, it's so awful.
No positive reinforcement at all.
So awful working for me. Yeah, I know.
No, that's good to hear about Coach, though, because I see it from a recruiting lens. That's pretty much my tunnel I look through. So it's good to hear the on-field aspect is what you would hope to.
Yep. All right, Danny. Appreciate you joining us, man.
You bet, man.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West again. Follow Danny at DannyWest247. Just does a great job covering Razorback recruiting. All right, we're going to go over to Keith Grayson now. For those of you who don't follow Keith, I don't know if that Twitter handle's accurate anymore, actually. Keith may not be on Twitter anymore, but he does have the 4th and 25 fund. So we're going to get to Keith here, if I can find him. Give me a second here. Where you at, Keith? Where you at? There we go. All right, here we go.
What up, Shane?
How you doing, Keith? Hey, Keith, I was about to tell everybody how to follow you on Twitter, but I think you're off Twitter, right?
Okay, so I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. Like, all I said during a game was at SEC officiating, I'm going to throat punch you. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not a person. Like, I wasn't directing it it was a Twitter account. That's not real. Like,
right.
The internet is not
real.
So
you can't necessarily throat punch an entity.
Yeah, I was mad at the entire process, right? I'm like punching air. And yep. I got permanently suspended. I mean, like, I appealed it like 3 or 4 times. So I'm on Twitter just to follow people in the coaching realm, and I have like 5 followers now. I had like 2,200, and then they just set it on fire.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about your 4th and 25 fund that you've been set up. You got a lot of news lately with that. Just you got your 501c3, so you're officially a charitable organization.
Yeah, I'm a really good guy, Trey. I know you always lead with my negativity or like some sort of negative action that's been bestowed onto me, like being banned from Twitter or being banned from the Alumni Association in Arkansas. So thank you for that. So hopefully we can turn the tide a little bit on this good that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Trying to turn a new page, I guess, or make a new chapter. So yeah, all kidding aside, and everybody listening to this, Trey and I have a banter that goes back and forth, so I think we both try to knock each other down a peg all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But the 4th and 25 fund is officially 501c3 approved, which is happened way faster than I thought. Apparently you can get that done, that process expedited down from 9 months to way sooner if you have a reason. You know, we were waiting on some money that was going to come in from some affluent people, and the IRS gave us that status, the approval status, and then in turn we also got approved to solicit donations within the state of Arkansas by the Arkansas Secretary of State as a recognized charity as well. So we are up and going. We're adding a board member to the board of directors that this week. We just voted her in, and she is with the Department of Treasury as a bank auditor. So she will be our treasurer. So really excited about getting that out there. If you want to find out more, go to 425fund.org and learn about what we're about. We're working with a project in the River Valley to update some of the community services there. And
let's hear real quick though, Keith. What's the mission statement? What are you guys trying to do for those who are hearing about this for the first time?
So ultimately, it's Arkansans helping Arkansas. I mean, that's the overall message. Is what we're trying to do is we raise donations for specific community projects or to help individuals or families, and those projects are designated with a student athlete, and we raise money on a grassroots level in order to make a charitable donation to a large group or a group of families or people in need, and those services are delivered by a student athlete at the University of Arkansas, who gets a little bit of NIL money to help market the cause that we're raising money for. And people will start to see more. I know that's a broad thing. I've kept it broad because we're going to narrow the focus as we start promoting each charitable event that we're trying to raise money for. So right now it's a broad message, but as you see, as we start announcing things and what we're working towards, then we can narrow the focus and say, hey, we're doing this specifically with this group of people, and the person that's helped promote this as a student athlete at the University of Arkansas. So all of the board members are volunteer based. No money is allocated towards anything other than marketing. So about 25 to 20% of your donation will go towards marketing, which in social media promotion, which will be paid to a student athlete's marketing services for that. So, and then 75 to 80% will go to the charity.
Yeah, good deal. And I think you're wise to keep it broad right now because this is new territory for all of us. I mean, we don't know what works and what's the best way to go about all this stuff. So like a year, let's say a year from now, what are we going to be looking at with 4th and 25 fund? What's going to have happened? What's going to be on the docket?
So a year from now, our goal is to have a student athlete represented in every sport on campus. There's 400 scholarship athletes on campus, and I think the starting quarterback is being matched in his effort in school and in the weight room and with all the work that goes into that by someone that's one of the third string swimmers on a swim team. All the student athletes at the university are all putting in the same amount of effort and work. So I think we want to recognize all those people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not just going to be relegated to stars in one sport or focused on anything. We want to spread this because it's a community outreach, and we want the community at the University of Arkansas to be involved as well. So one big thing that we're working on is Joe Nichols is highly involved with this, and he's gonna we're working with a charity concert with him and trying to convince other country singers that are Arkansas fans to be involved as well. And so I think that's one thing that we've already met about to kind of put together. I don't know if we're going to be able to get something like that done by football season, but there's tons of great venues in Northwest Arkansas to hold something like that and raise money for something, and we'll have a cause to link to that. I mean, we're going to be very ambitious in what we're trying to do and to help people in need in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Keith Grayson joining us again. Keith, I want to change gears with you a little bit. You came to the Texas game last year. You snuck in technically, I guess.
I had tickets. I've season tickets.
I
couldn't download my tickets.
You had tickets, but the internet wasn't working, so you just had to sneak in, I guess. But what are the games to come to this year? What events are you going to make it to this year? Because there's some interesting games.
Well, my schedule got a little cramped.
Yeah, they did.
So I've actually just been announced as defensive coordinator at North Canyon High School, which is a 5A program in Phoenix. And so my football season is going to overlap with the Razorbacks. And so I still have my season tickets, so maybe we can give some out on the show, put them to some good use.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, the Cincinnati game, I mean, we want to see where the barometer's at, right?
Right.
And I think we're going to be so dynamic on offense. The question mark, and it's not even a question mark, but Bryles catches heat for some reason and Odom evades it. Not that anybody on the staff should catch heat. That's not my point. But I think the defense, not to put any more pressure on Coach Odom than there already is, but the defense is the difference this year in what you're saying is a 10-win season and just being kind of an above average season or a championship level season. So I want to see what the defense looks like against Cincinnati. And I know a lot of people are going to that Provo game against BYU. I think I'm going to be able to make that. I think I have a bye week that week.
Oh, that's good.
But I mean, the schedule at home is incredible. So we get that every other year thing. So this is the year, if you don't have season tickets, this is the year to get season tickets because you got everybody coming to town that's anybody.
This is the year. This is the good year. It's always the even numbered years that are the good home schedules.
If we beat Bama, we don't storm the field because we're going to expect to beat Bama, right?
Is that right?
That's where we're at.
Yeah, I think we'll allow it for a $250,000 fine if they beat Bama this year. So Provo.
As an Arkansas fan, I don't even know. I mean, I hear you're leading into all this in the conversation today and for the past couple of months with every program that we have on campus. I'm not used to being a front runner. Like, being from Arkansas in itself means you're an underdog.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of wear that on my chest a little bit. And so now that everybody is doing so well across the board at the university, like, I don't even know how to handle going in with a potential top 10 football team and all that. I see some people have us ranked as high as number 6. We got number 1 preseason in basketball. I went to the Duke game in San Francisco, and Hunter Yurachek was coming down the escalator, and he kind of was like hello, and I just said I love you. He had no idea how to take that. and he just kind of walked off. I thought it was very weird. But I do. I mean, I think everybody does, right?
Yeah.
He's the most beloved person in Arkansas right now.
Yeah.
And I told him, I saw him again. I said, you can say it back, I love you.
It could be one of the great all-time sports years in Arkansas. And this year has been fun, obviously, with basketball making another Elite Eight, football team winning 9 games. Baseball has, been number 2. They're number 6 right now in D1 baseball. But you look ahead to next year, Football, maybe an outside chance to compete for a Western Division title. I don't know that you would say they were like a favorite or anything like that, but hey, maybe they got a shot at it. I definitely think 10 wins is in their future as a possibility. And then basketball, maybe the favorite to win the national freaking championship, and then baseball is right there every year as a candidate to win the national championship. I mean, it could be just an amazing, amazing 2022.
2011, going in with when Coach Petrino was here, and it was just at an all-time high, and I just remember everything was like right in the world, and then everything fell off, and you're looking around saying, are we ever going to get there? Is it, and I remember I would call in and talk to you and be like, I'm 35 years old at the time, or 30 or whatever it was, and I didn't think I was going to be in my lifetime seeing national title in one of the big three sports.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, how many are we going to get? We got to get one. I mean, we got to strike while the iron's hot. So, and quit talking about it and actually get a ring and something. But this thing is, everything happens in stages, and we're at one of those landmarks, in all these sports. To the next step in the stage, in the progression of the sport, is to win the whole damn thing.
Yeah. There was 2011. I believe that was the start of Mike Anderson at Arkansas, and there was a lot of excitement with him, and all that stuff. All right, Keith. Anything else you want to add before we cut you loose?
No, just we need to figure out a new intro for me other than bashing all my exploits from 10 years ago.
I'll take that into consideration.
I'm a doer. You said I was a doer. So
okay, I'll keep that in mind next time.
I get stuff done. But speaking of which, some of us have to work for a living. So I'm sitting out with a dump trailer full of 3 kitchens that have been demoed, and I got to go to the landfill now. So
all right. Appreciate you, Keith.
I'll watch you later.
All right, later. All right, everybody. Keith Grayson, a doer, as they say, gets stuff done. Not just a rowdy Razorback fan, but a guy that gets stuff done. And his latest project, obviously, the 4th and 25 Fund, going to be a defensive coordinator and going to be a father here soon. Also, just recently got married as well. So, Keith Grayson, appreciate him joining us. He always provides unique fan perspective. All right, we're going to get to some questions now. We didn't do that last time, but I said I was going to get to them, even though we went a little bit long. So we're going to get to the questions. Questions and comments. Richard Kaiser says, any chance on getting OL from Georgia that hit the portal? I mean, I think it's something you got to consider. Now, Pittman has said they have 3 spots. I've got him at 2 spots left. I don't know if he was not including Jordan Dominic in that, but he said he wanted to add a couple of defensive linemen and a wide receiver. So, I don't know. There's also, you also mentioned, if there's a guy in there you can't pass up at a certain position. So there's a couple of offensive linemen from Georgia that were like former 5-star recruits that have recently entered the portal. We're about to hit another stage of the portal, okay? We had the, Christmas time portal, start of the year portal, and then it just goes completely quiet because school starts up and nobody's jumping in the portal. And then you have spring football, and then people are jumping off, as we see at Arkansas, jumping out of into the portal. People right when the semester ends, right when spring football ends, you'll see a lot more people both at Arkansas and at other schools jumping in the portal. So it'll be another busy time, another little surge there. Carl Maunger says, I hope I said that right. What about the track program? It's evidently your opinion about Arkansas sports. It's evidently your opinion about Arkansas sports. I mean, the track program is, I was just kind of talking about the money sports. Track actually costs money to have, but, the football, basketball, baseball, bring money in. So those are kind of the 3 big. But, track's been there. I mean, it's not as dominant as it was when it was winning 42 national championships, but it's still there. Appreciate all the love from everybody saying they love the show also. I have several comments saying that. Richard Kaiser says, I believe just one hit the portal. He was a 5-star. Any portal news for DL help? I think that'll be coming, Clint Stacy Patterson. Isaac Riley says, proud to be a Hog fan, born and raised. Woo Pig Suey. Landon Montgomery says, KJ is your sleeper for Heisman this year. Also, Arkansas beats Bama October 1st. Be there. I will be there. I'll be there for all the games, I hope. And, yeah, I've seen KJ mentioned a little bit as a possible Heisman candidate. He's got to get He's got to get that go-to wide receiver. I mean, I think we saw in the Outback Bowl. Now, Penn State couldn't stop him on the ground. It's one reason they ran so much. But, lacking Traylon Burks in that Outback Bowl. So, got to get Jaden Hazelwood going and Keytron Jackson, I believe. Those two guys. Warren Thompson, too. Warren Thompson's done some good things. Appreciate everybody. Josh Smith, appreciate you saying that. Wes Warren says, is there any other possibilities we're looking at to shore up in basketball? Well, I kind of think maybe a wing. I've heard people say a guard. But if nothing else happens, they don't add anybody else, and as long as Jalen Williams comes back, I don't have a problem with this roster at all. Now, they got to have some changes. I mean, they're going to be over, but they're going to lose a guy at some point. Matt Bounce says, I can see 9-10 wins, but KJ has to remain healthy. He does. I mean, quarterback's obviously a bit of a concern right now. You got Cade Fortin and Malik Hornsby, and, you'll have Cade Renfro getting back healthy probably August, September before he's really full speed ready to go. Tim Eskew says, being way too early, top 3 or so in a bunch of lists is terrible for the victims mentality clan. Every week they complain another how media hates us, the NCAA hates us, the officials hate us, and how all three. Well, they do all hate. They all hate Arkansas, Tim. You know that. Let's see. Antonio T. Dixon Sr. says, great place to live. It really is. I mean, I remember when I left here after college, and then I was like, how'd I get back? I've been back here since 2005, I think. First came up here in 1996 for college. Maybe 2004. I've lived in Fayetteville more than I have anywhere else. Let's see. Landon Montgomery says Arkansas wins the Natty in baseball, football, or basketball in the upcoming season. Book it. All the road wins were meaningful, Tim. Road wins aren't easy to get. Keith asks Elon Musk to reinstate you. Jonathan Parker says, will Hunt make an impact at running back this year, or will freshman take a spot this year? Based on what I've seen so far, I would say you're probably looking at your first guy is Rocket Sanders and Dominic Johnson. Those guys will probably be a pretty even split. And then, A.J. Green and Rashad DeBinion is a guy that they really like. So I might put those four. I might say those are the top 4 backs. And you got to have 3 healthy backs at all time, I think. So, all right, everybody. Looks like I've caught up to your questions. I want to thank Danny West. Thank Keith Grayson for joining us. Well, we got one more. Travis Ulmer says, love the show, Trey. Thank you. Always look forward to your takes on our sports. I appreciate that, Travis. I really, really enjoyed doing this show. I had a chance to speak to students at the recent event at the university. Did the keynote deal, and it was good to talk to the students. I talked about more than like that. The whole topic is like what's it like to run a sports business and all the stuff that I have to do and what they can expect and all that stuff. I threw in some other stuff like invest your money in the stock market, some other tips of the trade, things to do. Anyway, it was a good event. I appreciate Ricky Thine and Ty Richardson for putting that event on. It was cool to be a part of. Anyway, appreciate that too, Travis. Appreciate everybody. Everybody's got a lot of love in these comments today. I mean, I don't need it, but I appreciate it. It's good feedback. Love to see what people think of the show we're doing. All right, everybody. Appreciate you for joining me. Appreciate Danny West. If you haven't signed up at HawgSports, it's $1 right now for your first month. If you ever wonder how you can support the show, that's a great way to support it. Sign up for $1. Check us out. That's kind of how I always tell people. That's kind of how we get you. We get you on the hook that way because it's hard to get people through the door, but once we get them through there, they stick around, enjoy the content. All right, everybody. We'll be back with you guys probably next week. We'll see. We might do something. I know I say that all the time. It just depends. I've got tax stuff you should see my office right now. There is stuff all over the floor, so I've got to get these taxes done. I told my accountant I would have it to him today, but it may not happen. So we're going to get that done and then focus on some other things. So thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.